Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf and to another Friday Reads. Yes, I know it's Saturday. I know. I uploaded this on Saturday. I filmed it on Saturday because reasons, but it's still my Friday Reads. I had every intention to film it yesterday, but just didn't happen. And it's been quite a while that I filmed the Friday Reads because last week I was again away helping out my mom, and I'm not filming when I'm at my mother's. So I'll just start with the books that I finished since the last time I filmed the Friday Reads. And the first one is a memoir, We Have Always Been Here by Samra Habib. Says here, memoir, a queer Muslim memoir. First published in 2019. And I came across this book, I think, excuse me, I think it was the Books on My Social Life, Sajid, I think Sajid, mentioned this book. I'm not 100% sure, but I will leave a link to his channel down below anyway, because he has a fabulous channel. He reads a lot of queer Muslim literature, fiction and nonfiction. So Samra Habib was born in Pakistan. She and her family were part of a Muslim religious minority. And for that reason, they had to flee. They came to Canada when Samra was in her early teens, maybe even a little younger, 10-ish. And so this memoir is about her life first in Pakistan and then in Canada. And I liked it. And I think, of course, the remote emotional resonance is much, much stronger if you read a memoir that has real connection with your own life. And obviously, I'm neither queer nor Muslim nor immigrant. I don't know what happens today, but I'm really sorry. I will cough after I finish this clip, and then hopefully it will be over. But anyway, so I missed a little bit the connection in terms of reflection about what happened to her. I felt that especially the second part, when she is growing up and finding her queer identity, was structurally a bit all over the place. So I think it's definitely worthwhile if you want to read a memoir, by a queer Muslim woman. There are not that many out there. I mean, memoirs, not queer Muslim women, but memoirs by queer Muslim women. So I think it's worthwhile, but it's not, one of my favorite memoirs. The next book I finished was For Victober. It's my cheat book. George Eliot, The Last Victorian. Yeah, this is a used library copy, and it has this cover, so it's glaring all over the place, but by Catherine Hughes, first published in 1998. And I'm reading this as a cheat, as I said, because it's obviously not Victorian literature, but it is about a Victorian writer, and it even has Victorian in the title. Catherine Hughes is a biographer, historian, and this is, I think, my first work by her, and also my first George Eliot biography, but I think so. But anyway, I liked it, but I didn't love it. It gave me good, solid information about George Eliot's life, but then again, there was nothing that I didn't know, quote unquote. I mean, I read about George Eliot, even though I haven't read a biography. But for somebody who wants to, start exploring George Eliot's life, I think this is a good starting point. And why I didn't love it has more to do with my preference for biographies. I like biographies telling me a story. In other words, having sort of a main theme, and then telling me the person's life according to that theme. And this was more your typical, very straightforward biography. You know, she was born then and then, her parents were such and such, and then she went to school there, and then she met this and this person. And that's interesting as a, you know, for the facts, but I don't find it very interesting in terms of reading the story of a life. So I'm certainly going to explore other biographies of George Eliot. Still not over, even though I coughed extensively while I had a little break just now. So if you have a suggestion or a recommendation for another biography about George Eliot, preferably, of course, written by a woman so that I can talk about it on the channel, please let me know down in the comments. And another book I finished, also nonfiction. Yes, I finished a lot of nonfiction. I talked to some of my friends about it. I'm at the moment, I have really big trouble of finding fiction that holds my interest. I start a lot of books and then I read 10 pages and then I think, start another book. And the most of what I read at the moment, in terms of not only starting but reading on and finishing, is nonfiction. The next one is also for Victober and not a cheat, and that is this one, Mary Seacole, Wonderful Adventures of Mrs. Seacole in Many Lands, first published in 1857. So it is a Victorian piece of literature. Mary Seacole was a Jamaican woman born in 1805, a Scottish father and a Creole mother, and she traveled a lot, as you can see from the title, but it's not a travel log or a travel journal or anything like that, but it is about her work. She took care of injured soldiers during the Crimean War. She established a sort of hotel, quote unquote, where soldiers could come, you know, to recuperate after they have been injured. She was not a doctor, but she could treat diseases like cholera and stuff like that with herbal medicine. But her main goal was to take care of soldiers, you know, in the reconvalescence period. Sean, the book maniac, if you follow him, and of course you do, he DNF'd this one. He found it boring. And I have to say, it is, again, with the biography I talked about just earlier, the George Eliot biography, this is also very straightforward, almost diary-like, and then this happened, and I met this person, and then I traveled there, and this happened, and I ate this food. She is not, Mary Seacole is not a gifted, you know, extraordinarily gifted writer. But I found it interesting because I don't know that much about the Crimean War, so it gave me a perspective on the Crimean War and also about the life of a woman in the mid-19th century that was quite extraordinary. You know, women didn't travel that much or worked or anything. So for that reason, I find it interesting, but I have to say, yes, the writing and the way the story is presented is maybe not the most, you know, breathtakingly beautifully written, suspenseful storytelling. But I would still recommend it if you are interested in this type of story. And oh, by the way, I read this for Victober, as I said, but also it was the October pick of Mel's Book Club from Mel's Bookland Adventures. And then on to the books that I'm still reading, almost finished the next one, a short story collection, Catherine Ann Porter, Pale Horse, Pale Rider. And again, I forgot the publication date of this collection, 1939. Catherine Ann Porter is one of my beloved authors, an author what kind of sentence was that? An author that I really love and I feel is completely forgotten, almost underestimated. She wrote mainly short stories. She wrote one fantastic novel, The Ship of Fools, in the early 60s, and that won her the Pulitzer Prize, and made her famous when she was already, quite old. But her short stories are wonderful. And I'm reading this collection with Adam from Memento Mori, and I have just one story to finish. The title story, Pale Horse, Pale Rider, which is about the influenza epidemic in the 20th century, so 1917, 1918. So far, I'm really liking it. And I know that Hannah from Hannah's Books, she told me on Twitter that she's really looking forward to my take on this one. But I will talk more extensively when we finish. But I mean, Catherine Ann Porter, I love her. So spoiler alert, I love the book. And the other book that I'm still reading is also a buddy read, and that is George Eliot, Daniel Deronda, and I'm reading this with Heidi from My Reading Life. And again, I'm not sure about the publication date, 1876. And it's one of George Eliot's, I think it's the only novel by George Eliot that is actually set in the Victorian era. And it follows a title character, Daniel Deronda, and his search for where he comes from. He doesn't know his parents. He doesn't know who his parents are. He's living with a guardian, Sir Hugo. And the other main character is Gwendolen, an aristocratic young woman whose family lost a fortune in just at the beginning of the book. And then, she has to also find a way of what she's going to do with her life. Marrying rich is, of course, one of the options. And this one is quite a chunkster, and we will have finished that by the end of next week. We're checking in tomorrow with the next chunk. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. I mean, reading George Eliot is always a joy, I feel, because she just writes so well. And I just go with the flow. But I will give you my final thoughts after I have finished it. And then there's also a book that I started 2 weeks ago or something, but I haven't talked about it yet. And it's another buddy read, this time with Kim from Middle of the Book March. And we are reading Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon, published in 1857. I hadn't read this author before, Mary Elizabeth Braddon, but she was a very well-known and successful author back in the during Victorian times. And as always in Victober, you know that the ladies who organize it, they also have prompts. And one of the prompts was read a Victorian sensational novel. Didn't even know what that meant, but obviously it means, secrets, but not in the term, not a real mystery, but a little bit, and sensational stuff that is, where the Victorians would maybe say, oh gosh, that's and so this one is about a young woman just married when the book opens, to Mr. Audley, and she's now Lady Audley, but she seems to have a secret in her past. And then somebody is gone missing, and then the nephew of Sir Audley starts investigating and trying to find out her secret, and it's all very, scandalous in a way. We are more than halfway through, checking in also today, I think. Yes, today. And I have to say, I'm again enjoying it, but I'm not blown away. The mystery stuff is a bit too slow for me for a 21st century reader, and also the secret, you could guess that after 20 pages. I'm really sorry about the cough today. No COVID. No. it's just allergies. And then, yes, and you can have allergies in October. At least I can. So it's the suspense part of it is not really gripping me. It's more that it's a nice, entertaining read. And I'm going to put this down now. And the last 3 books were fiction, and I also said before that I can't really find anything fiction-wise that grabs me. But these are all buddy reads, and that always keeps me going. And there is nothing, neither of the 3 books I would probably put down if I had to read them alone. But I'm not sure. Certainly Lady Audley. But anyway, just to clarify, I don't know why I'm telling you all this babble-de-goo. Anyway, so these were my books that I've read and still reading and that I started. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Happy weekend. Looking forward to your comments as always, and I'll talk to you soon in the next one tomorrow.